My dear boys and girls, you're all welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we want to look at finding area of more shapes. But before we look at this lesson, we need to make a review of what you did in the previous lessons. Remember, you learned about area of triangles, area of quadrilaterals, you learned about area of parts of a circle. So we shall use that knowledge that you learned in those previous lessons to look at area, finding area of more shapes. And looking at finding area of more shapes, we shall look at combined shapes. Combined shapes. Now when you look at our example 1, the question says, find the area of the shape below. Find the area of the shape below. But remember, these are combined shapes. They've combined a semicircle together with a rectangle. So step number 1, we need to identify the given parts in the given shape. In this given shape, we have two parts. We have a semicircle and we have a rectangle. So after identifying the given parts in that shape, the next step, my dear boys and girls, we shall look at the first shape. Which first shape we shall look at area of the rectangle. Area of the rectangle. My dear boys and girls, how do we get the area of a rectangle? Yes, you can still remember. Area of a rectangle is given as length times width as our area of the rectangle. Now, having written the formula, our next step is to go back and identify the length of the rectangle. At the same time, we identify its width. From the given shape, the length of the rectangle is marked by 14 centimeters and the width is marked by 60 centimeters. So we shall substitute and we come up with area equals 14 centimeters times 6 centimeters. My dear boys and girls, we shall have to arrange that vertically, 14 centimeters times 6 centimeters, whereby we shall multiply. My dear boys and girls, what is 6 times 4? 6 times 4 will give us a 4. We shall regroup a 2. Then 6 times 1 gives us 6 plus 2. We come up with 84 square centimeters as our area of the rectangle. Now, remember I told you that in this work, there is need for you to identify the given parts in the given shape. And in this shape, we have two given parts. Among them, we have the rectangle, whose area has already been found. We still have what we call the semicircle. So in our next step, we shall look at area of the semicircle. Area of the semicircle. Remember, my dear boys and girls, when you try to look at this shape here, what do you really identify? Remember, for you to get the area of a semicircle, you need to have the radius. But where shall we get the radius from? Looking at our rectangle, the length of the rectangle is representing the diameter of the semicircle. The length is equal to the diameter, looking at the shape. So now in this, we need to first look for the radius. Whereby, remember radius in the previous lessons, we said the radius is diameter divided by 2, or diameter out of 2. So my dear boys and girls, since the length is equal to the diameter, we shall now look for the radius. And remember radius, we shall get our diameter, which is 14 centimeters, divided by 2 centimeters. So we shall cancel 2 into 2. We shall come up with a 1. 14 into 2, we shall come up with a 7. So what does it mean? Our radius is equal to 7 centimeters. I told you, you need to study the given figures, the given shape. Identify the figures given. So in this situation, we are given a shape having two figures, a rectangle and also a semicircle. But for us to get the area of the semicircle, we need to have its radius, because in the formula we need the radius. So when you look at a given shape, you will find out that its length is equal to the diameter of the semicircle. So we had to use the 14 as the length, which is equal to the diameter, to come up with our radius. By dividing the diameter by 2, which is 14, we come up with a radius of 7 centimeters. My dear boys and girls, our next step, we need to study the formula of calculating area of a semicircle. If you can remember from the previous lessons, area of a semicircle is given as a half pi r squared. You know the reason as to why we use a half pi r squared, because we taught that in the previous lessons. Now our next step, after writing the formula, we shall now substitute. We shall carry out our substitution, whereby we shall have a half times 22 out of 7. Remember, we are using 22 out of 7 as our pi. And you know the reason as to why we use 22 out of 7? The reason is the given radius, the radius we've calculated, is a multiple of 7. So we are free to use pi as 22 out of 7. Our pi has been substituted as 22 out of 7 times 7 centimeters times 7 centimeters, because our radius is squared. That's why we multiply 7 centimeters times 7 centimeters. My dear boys and girls, our next step, we shall cancel 2 into 2, we come up with a 1. 22 into 2, we shall come up with 11. Now, we still have some other numbers we can cancel out. We have a common factor that can cancel out 7 and 7, and that common factor is 7. So we shall reduce 7 into 7, we come up with a 1. 7 into 7, we come up with a 1. So my dear boys and girls, in our next step, remember, as per our numerators, we have 1 times 11 times 1 centimeter times 7 centimeters. So in our next step, we shall have 1 times 11 times 1 centimeter. It gives us 11 centimeters. Then times 7 centimeters. So my dear boys and girls, we shall multiply 11 centimeters times 7 centimeters. We come up with 77 square centimeters as our area for the semicircle. But remember, my dear boys and girls, in this work here, we are looking at finding area of more shapes, where we've used more than one shape, more than one figure to come up with a shape. Now, what we have to do to get the area of combined shapes, we shall pick the area of the rectangle plus the area of the semicircle in order for us to come up with the area of the given shape. So in our next step, my dear boys and girls, we shall look at area of the shape. Whereby area of the shape, we shall pick the area of the rectangle, which is 84 square centimeters, plus the area of the semicircle, which has been found as 77 square centimeters. We are going to sum up, whereby we shall have our answer in square centimeters. 7 plus 4 will come up with, yes, 7 plus 4 gives us 11. So whereby, my dear boys and girls, we shall maintain the units as square centimeters. 7 plus 4, we come up with 11, we write 1, then we regroup the 1. So we shall have 1 plus 8. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 plus 7, we come up with 16. So our final answer becomes 161 square centimeters. That is our example 1 as per this work. But my dear boys and girls, I want you to study the given examples critically. Identify the parts given in these shapes. Identify the parts. Identification of the parts is very important. It will guide you to the right formula you have to apply to get the area of those specific parts, and after getting the area of the specific parts, you can now finally get the area of the given shape by summing up the area of all the given parts. My dear boys and girls, that is our example 1. We need to proceed. My dear boys and girls, we need to proceed to the next example. Now, when you look at example 2, my dear boys and girls, it says, work out the area of the figure below. Everyone, work out the area of the figure below. Now, when you look at this given figure, we need to identify the parts that make up this figure. I talked about identification of the parts in example 1. When we look at this given figure, how many parts do you see? Yes, somebody has told me. She's seeing 3 parts. And in the 3 parts, can you please mention them? Yes, somebody is telling me. He is seeing 2 quadrilaterals, and you can easily see them. We have this quadrilateral on the left. We also have another quadrilateral on the right. So making 2 quadrilaterals. And again, what other part can you see? Somebody is telling me that he's seeing what we call a square. A square, you can see the property of a square being identified on the figure. So now, my dear boys and girls, having seen the parts that make up this figure, we have 3 parts, the 2 quadrilaterals and the square. We need furthermore, remember we are looking at area. We need furthermore to get the area of the given parts. My dear boys and girls, we shall begin by looking at area of a square. Area of a square. If you can recall, we looked at that in the first lessons we had as we were introducing this topic to you. How do we get area of a square, my dear boys and girls? Area of a square equals, good. Area of a square is side times side. Everybody, area of a square equals side times side. Now, my dear boys and girls, look at this figure critically. What is the length of each side from the figure? Good. My dear boys and girls, the length is given as 10 meters. So we shall substitute in the formula. And we shall have our area be equal to 10 meters times 10 meters. So we shall arrange our multiplication vertically, whereby we shall have our 10 meters times 10 meters. Using vertical multiplication, vertical arrangement, we shall have 0 times 0. We come up with 0 times 0. We come up with a 0. Then it's 0 times 1. We come up with that second 0. Good. We proceed. We proceed and say 1 times 10, we shall come up. That is 1 times 0. We get the first 0 as per the next step. Then 1 times 1, we come up with a 1. So finally, we need to add this. 0 plus 0, adding other ones, we come up with 0 plus 0, other ones we shall come up with a 0. Then it's 0 plus 0, we shall come up still with a 0. Then under hundreds, we have 1. Our final answer reads as 100 square centimeters as per the area of the square. Let me hope we are all moving at the same pace. Area of a square has been found as 100 square centimeters. My dear boys and girls, we need to proceed because in this figure, we identified that it has 3 parts. And among the parts, we saw that it has a square and it has got also the 2 quadrilaterals. Now we need to proceed, my dear boys and girls, by looking at the area of the 2 quadrilaterals. We are combining the 2 quadrilaterals because these quadrilaterals have the same radius. In this question, you are given the 30 meters. But when you look at the 30 meters, they can be divided by 3 to come up with 10 meters. Because a quadrilateral it has its radius, the radii. When you add the two radius, the radii have the same measurements. So the radii is marked by 10 meters, and also the sides of the square are also marked by 10 meters. Now, my dear boys and girls, we need to proceed and look at area of the two quadrilaterals. If you can recall so well, in the previous lessons, we looked at area of quadrilaterals. Who can remind us of the formula of calculating area of a quadrilateral? Quadrilateral, from the word quarter, you can even see the 90. Yes, someone is telling me that the formula is given as area of one quadrilateral is a quarter pi r squared. Why are we multiplying by 2? We are multiplying by 2 because the given quadrilaterals have the same measurements. That's why we are combining their area by multiplying by 2. Remember, area of one quadrilateral is a quarter pi r squared. And since there are 2 and they have the same radius, we shall multiply that formula by 2 to get the area of the two quadrilaterals. So my dear boys and girls, our next step is to substitute. We shall maintain our quarter times our pi. Pi is changing to 3.14 because the given radius is not a multiple of 10. That's why we are converting the pi to become 3.14. So my dear boys, we shall substitute the pi at 3.14 times 10 meters times 10 meters times 2. So we shall proceed to the next step, whereby we shall have our quarter. We shall convert the 3.14 into a fraction, and we shall have a quarter times 314 out of 100 times 10 meters times 10 meters times 2. My dear boys and girls, the next step, we shall divide. We shall identify the common factor for 4 and 314, and that common factor is 2. So we can divide out by 2. 4 divided by 2, what is the outcome? Someone is whispering to me that the outcome, when you divide 4 by 2, we come up with a 2. So 4 divided by 2, we come up with a 2. How about 314 divided by 2, we shall come up with 157. Because 3 into 2, we come up with a 1. The remainder is 1. The number turns into 11. 11 into 2 gives us 5. Remainder 1. The number turns into 14. 14 into 2, we come up with a 7. So my dear boys and girls, we need to proceed. We still have a common factor that can divide out 2 and 2, and that common factor is 2. So before we look at cancelling 2 by 2, we shall remove the zeros. That 0 goes with that 0. That 0 goes with that 0. So now when we look at our remaining values, we still have a common factor that can divide out 2 into 2. And that common factor is 2. So we can cancel 2 into 2. We shall come up with a 1. 2 into 2. We come up with a 1. So what does it mean, my dear boys and girls? We shall proceed and write our area being equal to 1 times 157. We come up with 157 times 1 meter times 1 meter. So we come up with the area of the two quadrilaterals being 157 square meters. So we have to underline that. My dear boys and girls, remember, the question says, work out the area of the figure below. Having worked out the area of the given parts in this figure, the area of a square and the two quadrilaterals, our next step is to look at the area of the shape, the area of the figure. And remember, I told you, these are combined shapes. As you get their area, you need to add the area of the parts, all the parts that were involved in the given shape or figure. So now, my dear boys and girls, we shall work out this. We are going to add the area of a square plus the area of the two quadrilaterals as our next step. The area of a square, which is 100 square meters, plus the area of the two quadrilaterals, which is 157 square meters. And my dear boys and girls, we shall have to draw those two lines. We shall come up with our answer as 257 square meters. Why 257? As you add another ones, we have 0 plus 7, which gives us a 7. 0 plus 5 under tens, we have a 5. And 1 plus 1 under hundreds, we have a 2. So, my dear boys and girls, this is the answer for question example 2. But as per this work, I want you to take a keen eye, because the next step is for you to sit for the activity, to do the activity, the given activity, and this is the activity we have prepared for you. Now, but I want you to study this activity carefully. The instructions say, work out the area of the shapes below. I've told you, as per this work, identify the given parts in these questions. Identify the given parts as your step number 1. Step number 2, after identifying the given parts, look for the area of each part involved in the given shape. Get the area of each part involved in the given shape. Then step number 3, after getting the area, sum up the area. Add the area of all the parts that are involved in the given shape. My dear boys and girls, I call it the end of the lesson. It's my humble prayer. Take care of yourselves. I wish you well. Endeavor to sit and write the work as we pray to God so that we can see you come back to school and continue with your studies. May the Almighty God richly bless you. May the Almighty God richly bless you. I wish you the best in the mighty name